Ethics and Worldview Presentation by Stephanie Cockrum, EDU 633. When we think about the term instructional design, and in defining it, is the theory and practice of design, development, utilization, management, and evaluation of processes and resources for learning. That's Kirk 2017. According to Reiser, instructional design is a systematic development of education and training materials in a consistent and reliable fashion. Mentari 2019 says is a systematic procedure in which education or training programs are developed and composed for substantial improvement of learning. And in my view, what is the instructional design? Instructional design in my research is basically educational technology, where we are now taking our instruction and using technology to provide students with a means of learning that will stimulate them. It will produce results according to our goals and objectives. It's a process of us using resources, put our resources together with technology, basically to improve education. What does ethics mean in instructional design? Well, ethics can be defined as an alternative to law in society. In other words, where law stops, ethics starts. It is the moral act of making sure that things are safe, decent, in order, and morally sound. It's the process of not doing harm in business and in society. So when you look at ethics in instructional design, you want to look at, are you designing something that will be beneficial for the students, that won't harm them, will produce the results that you want them to produce, that is morally sound, that is decent, that is in order, that is safe, that all students, whether they have a disability or not, will be able to achieve the same results from the lesson or the project that you are designing. The Association for Educational Communication and Technology, AECT, uses ethics in design in the definition of education and technology. AECT defines education technology as the study and the ethical practice used in the learning environment that facilitates student learning in a risk-free environment. And that's Reiser and Dempsey 2018. So when we really consider all of this, is when you put ethics with instructional design, you're saying that whatever you design must be morally sound, must do no harm, must be a presentation for the students, whether disabled or not, that would lead them towards the road of achievement, of gaining knowledge, of being able to transfer their knowledge into another instructional situation. So we have to consider what we're doing, when we're doing it, how we're doing it, and why we're doing it as instructional designer. The biblical worldview of instructional design and ethics. Well, I want to use the scripture Proverbs 22:6. And it says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And so what I get from that in relations to instructional designers is that as instructional designer, they're responsible for the fulfillment of the scripture. The training, the instructional designer must have purpose. The instructional design must have purpose. It must be ethical. It must be factual. It must be fair. And the training must meet the need of all learners. So going into that, it's not only about the curriculum, it's all the aspects of learning. What is the delivery? Who are you delivering to? Who is the audience? How would it affect the audience? Would it offend anyone in the audience? So when you train, we want to train students to understand that Education is something that everyone deserves, and everyone deserves a fair chance of learning. So instructional designers are responsible for the fulfillment of that scripture, training up a child in the way he should go. And when he is old, he should not depart from it. Okay, so we must meet the needs, basically, of all learners. And then another scripture, Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work heartily as the Lord and not to man. In other words, what you're doing, when you design your instruction, you're not going to just haphazardly design it. You're going to design it as if you were designing it for God. So instructional designers must do the best to provide learners with an equal opportunity to learn. They must ensure that best practice are being employed. They must ensure that the learning goals are met through the design process. They must ensure that learning is engaging for students. And finally, Ecclesiastes 9:10 says, whatever your hands find to do, do it with your might. In other words, do the best job that you can possibly do. When you're thinking about designing for someone, look at all aspects. Consider yourself, consider others, consider the situation, whether social, economic or not. Is it going to be fair to all learners? Will all learners have the same ability to access the information that you are requiring them to do? So we want to consider that, and that's a major consideration in instructional design. And so going on with biblical worldview of instructional design, Philippians says in 4:8, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. And so as educators, as instructional designers, as administrators, as teachers, and as people living in society, we always want to do our utmost in ensuring that the educational process in instructional design is a fair process, it's a thoughtful process, it's an honest process. It's a process with the goal of inspiring all learners by engaging them, not doing any unfair practices, ensuring that whether it's social economics, it's no consideration, meaning that every learner should have the same access. So when you design something, you can't design something and possibly somebody would have to pay for. When you design something, you have to design with the hearing impaired in mind, with if the student had visual difficulties, if you have to think about all the different aids that might have to be considered. So when you're looking at your materials, when you're looking at your resources, when you're looking at your audience, when you're looking at your subject, having subject matter experts, making a presentation that any learner can follow. It must be clear. It must be concise. It must be something that is easy to follow, because the instruction design is all of that. It is designing instruction for all. Designing instruction that's going to achieve the objectives and the goals that it's intended to achieve, whether it's math, science, language arts, social studies, or music. Whatever you are in the designing instruction for, you must consider meeting the needs of the learner ultimately, meeting the educational objectives ultimately, meeting the goal of whatever you're designing and presenting to the students is transferable. Will the students be able to transfer this into the next setting? Meeting and making sure that the resources are provided for all students. Will my students be able to access these resources? And then think about it, the overall learning outcome. Is learning occurring? Is the learner able to learn what it's intended to learn? So Philippians 4:8 says, finally, my brother, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, what is commendable, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. So we need to think about our students. We need to think about honorable things. We need to think about pure things. And most of all, we need to think about the excellence in instructional design.